Zup! In this video, I'm going to show my entire process to create this cleaver with hand-painted textures. The whole process from the concept to the final presentation. I used Blender for modeling, Substance Painter to bake all the maps, and 3D Code for the texturing painting. Even though I have used those 3D softwares, you could do everything in Blender. I'm new to Substance and it's literally the first time I've used 3D Code. But I'm learning these two as they are used in the gaming industry quite a lot. I hope that you can learn a thing or two by watching my workflow. And the goal for my portfolio is to present my skills in a way that an indie game studio would see value in it. In smaller studios, artists usually wear many hats. Some days you'd be doing concept art, where some you would be helping the modelers with some 3D stuff. I got this advice from Trent Kaniuga. In a video, he says that in smaller studios, artists usually don't do more than one task, in contrast to larger studios where work is more segmented. His channel is amazing for concept artists and you should check him out. That's the reason that I try to include and learn new skills in each project that I do. For example, my other project, I'm making a tank game using the Godot engine. And it has been a lot of fun. Concept art. I start my process by gathering some references and sketching some ideas. One thing that usually happens is that my designs tend to get more interesting as I draw more and more. Some thoughts like, what if this cleaver is for a dwarven butcher? Or, this cleaver is used by some religion in a sort of ritual start popping in my head. So instead of looking at a blank screen or piece of paper waiting for some good idea, I just start to draw something, as simple as it may be. This helps me a ton to improve my designs. For this particular asset, I didn't have a set prompt with all the things I wanted for the design. I simply wanted a cleaver. And by experimenting, I ended up reaching this idea of a more delicate, pristine cleaver used for religious rituals, instead of the more common ones that are beaten up and seen a lot of use. What would this ritual be? I don't know, but knowing my goal now, I gather some more references from religious props made in stuff from the Vatican and such. Even though this is a more grounded subject, I still went for a stylized look for my asset. Modeling. Having drawn and painted my design, I have a good base to start modeling my asset in Blender, as well as having some color to use as references later in my texturing. This is not a very complicated asset to model, so I went with my usual workflow for low poly. First I work on the silhouette, the big things, and then I start to work on the details, like the gems and the engravings. After finished the modeling for the low poly, I create a high poly model by sculpting some details that will be transferred to the low poly one in Substance Painter by baking the maps onto it. I am new to sculpting and have only tried to do it in Blender. I still have to pick up ZBrush and give it a try. Baking the maps. After I'm done sculpting the details, I boot up Substance and bake some maps that I will use in 3D Code for the texturing. This was pretty simple. The baking can be done in any of the 3 softwares that I use for this project, but I find Substance to be the most straightforward to do so. Painting the texture. Now that I have my concept, model, and baked maps, it's time for the texture painting. I don't know why, but texture painting feels so nice. It's almost like 2D painting. All the fundamentals from 2D art also helps a ton when painting in 3D. I've done some texturing painting in Blender and in Substance already, but it's my first time ever trying 3D Coat. As you can see, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Picking up a new software is normally very challenging and comes with a lot of frustration and anger. But it's equally rewarding once you get the hang of it. Once Carol said, "Bitter are the roots of study, but how sweet their fruit." And it clearly applies when learning a new 3D software. Dude was thinking way ahead of his time. For this asset, I imagined a warmish light source that would come from above the spine of the cleaver. I imported the maps that I had baked in Substance and got to work. I started with some flat colors as a base and worked my way around those. Some darkening of the shadows, painting the highlights, trying to always keep in mind the direction of the light. I went for some red, pink and green gems, a watered down gold for the handle, and a very desaturated blue for the blade. After I got somewhat accustomed to the shortcuts for 3D Coat, the painting process became a lot smoother. In the future, I will probably stick with 3D Coat for hand painting textures. One thing that I really like about 3D Coat is that it has a layer system similar to Photoshop. And in some ways it feels like you are painting an action figure. After I finished the texturing, I exported the maps to Blender and posed the asset to make it look cool. I hope that this video helps you to create your hand-painted assets, and a great way to show that it did is by subscribing and liking the video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I read all of them. Thanks and have a good one.